यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्. This divine shloka from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Lord Shri Krishna in the epic of Mahabharata, reveals the purpose of incarnation of the Lord on this planet Earth. Mahabharat is full of stories which are lessons for life. However, there are some unheard tales in the epic that one might not be aware of. So, now let us hear these unheard tales. We begin with the story of Shammi leaves. As Yudhishthir lost everything, wealth, fame, kingdom, his brothers and his wife too, in the game of dice with the Kauravas, Draupadi was dragged to the royal court by Dushasana and disrobed in the presence of great warriors like Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Vidura. Suffering great humiliation, she prayed to none other than Lord Krishna, who saved her honor by providing garment of unending length. The blind king Dhritarashtra realized that this humiliation could prompt Draupadi to curse his sons and turned the winnings of the dice game back over to the Pandava brothers, releasing them from the bondage of slavery. Greatly annoyed at this, Duryodhan threatened suicide and cursed his father to invite Pandavas into one last game of the dice, the terms of which were that the loser would be condemned to 12 years of exile in the forest and the 13th year to be spent incognito. As anticipated, Pandavas lost again, spent 12 years in exile and 13th year in disguise in the Matsya kingdom. But before entering the Matsya kingdom, they left their weapons on the Shammi tree, and it was on the day of Dussehra or Vijayadashmi. Pandavas revealed their identity and brought back their weapons from the Shammi tree. Since then, exchange of Shammi leaves on Vijayadashmi has become the symbol of goodwill and victory. So, isn't it wonderful to know that back then trees, though mute, immovable beings, were considered so auspicious, useful, and important that a day was dedicated to them. Now, coming to the next unheard tale. As we know, Mahabharat war or the Kurukshetra war was fought 5,000 years ago, and it was no less than the world war, as kings from all corners of the world had participated in this war. The king of Udupi, however, was one such king who chose to remain neutral. He spoke to Krishna and said, "Those who fight battles have to eat. I will be the caterer for this battle." Many of the Udupi people are caterers even today. This Mahabharat war lasted 18 days, and every day thousands of soldiers died. So the Udupi king had to cook that much less food, otherwise it would go waste. The amazing thing was that every day the food was exactly enough for all the soldiers and no food was wasted. After a few days, people were amazed. How is he managing to cook the exact amount of food? No one could know how many people had died on any given day. When someone asked the king of Udupi, you manage this? The king replied, Every night I go to Krishna's tent. Krishna likes to eat boiled groundnuts in the night, so I peel them and keep them in a bowl. After he is done, I count how many nuts he has eaten. If it's 10 peanuts, I know tomorrow 10,000 people will be dead. So the next day, I cook lunch. I cook for 10,000 people less. So don't we agree that people of that era indeed knew the greatness of the Lord and his mystical powers? Now, listen to this unheard tale of Duryodhan's dilemmas. As Duryodhan, bruised, badly wounded by Bhima, was lying in the battlefield, he kept his 3 fingers in a raised position and was unable to speak. No one could figure out what they meant. Seeing his plight, Krishna approached him and said, I know what issues occupy your mind. I will address them. Krishna identified these issues as not building a fort around Hastinapur, not persuading Vidar to fight the battle, not making Ashwathama the commander-in-chief after the death of Dronacharya. Krishna explained further that if you would have built a fort, I would have asked Nakul to mount the horse and destroy the fort. If you would have succeeded in persuading Vidar to fight the battle, I would participate in the battle too. And if Ashwathama was made the commander-in-chief, I would have made Yudhishthir angry. On hearing this, Duryodhan closed all the fingers and within seconds he left his body. Many of us do not know that Nakul could drive his horse even in the heavy rains without getting wet. He traveled with such a speed between a drop and the other drop without getting wet. Only Nakul can do these tricks among all the Kaurava and the Pandava warriors. It also seems that if Yudhishthir gets angry, everything that falls within the range of his eyesight gets burnt. Thus, the Lord, who is impartial to one and all, addressed to Duryodhan's dilemmas in his final moments of life.